So I'm going to switch over to my trusty Vista machine and walk through a quick little scenario where I'm going to try to work on a version of a PowerPoint presentation that I have on my machine. Drat. The PowerPoint presentation is not on my machine here. That is because I happen to have it over in, yeah, it's here. It's over in the documents that are on this laptop. So if I was running Windows XP, what I would probably do is just copy the files over and work on them locally and copy them back and sort of keep things in sync myself. But in Windows Vista, we have the ability to just quickly set up synchronization of common document folders and have Vista keep things in sync for me. So I'm just going to get this set up. There we go. That's all the configuration that I had to do. And it's going to do an initial synchronization right now. Now, that can take a while because I've got several tens of megabytes of data in there. But the key thing that will happen from here on out, once that initial synchronization happens, is that I no longer have to worry about which copy of which file is on which machine. I now have, without the use of a server, a single document repository that is shared across all of my machines. Now, we have added to this synchronization, underlying synchronization feature, the ability to be very efficient in the way that it uses bandwidth. And that's what I want to show to you now. So what we have here, so it's now done the initial synchronization. I have my files here on my local machine. And, oh, it's not completely finished yet. The large file is still coming through, so we'll have to wait for a second. I'll continue telling you about PC-to-PC synchronization. So it allows updates to happen on any computer, and it will automatically detect and help you reconcile conflicts that happen there. But more importantly, it does try to be extremely efficient with the bandwidth that it uses, so that, for instance, if I was traveling and was connected over a slow network connection, then it would detect the differences, just the differences, to a file that I've changed on one computer and send only those differences over to the other computer. So it does look like, nope, still don't have the large file yet. There we go. We've got the large file for me to edit. Now, this is a little bit hard to demo because I'm just going to edit the file and it's going to show up somewhere else, and that's going to be all great. So I'm going to have to show you a little bit about what's happening under the covers here. So I'm going to monitor two performance counters that we maintain. There's no data to really show about this yet, but let me tell you the two counters that I'm monitoring. The red line, when that shows up after it's done a subsequent synchronization, is going to be the size of files that have been received over to the other replication partner. So for instance, if I change a file that's 10 megabytes or 20 megabytes or 30 megabytes or a gigabyte, that's what this performance counter is going to register. How big was that file that I transferred over? And the blue line is going to be how many bytes did I actually have to send in order to get that copy of the file over to the remote machine. So that's what we're going to be looking at. Now let me go through just a really, trivial editing example, but it's a common thing that can happen with, well, working with PowerPoint, for instance. Suppose I had an early version of a presentation. Well, this isn't TechEd. Let's get rid of this slide. And, oh, need more information about myself. So group, program, manager, Windows, server, division. And this is still TechEd. So we need to change the slide design. That looks like a PDC design. OK, so now it looks like a PDC. Now let me save that. So it's probably hard for you to read, but it's saving it locally. It's saving it to my C:users, documents folder. So it's now saved locally. And you can see that the timestamp is updated. The timestamp is now today. So we have the local version today. And automatically, we should see the new timestamp update over here. Now, that'll take a little while for it to do the synchronization, to detect the fact that the file changed. And then it's going to run through the algorithm and figure out what the differences are and only send the differences over. But without user intervention at all, we will get the change propagate over to the remote side. Now you see the timestamp has happened. Now let's take a look at how much data that we had to send. Remember, that was about a 28 megabyte file that I was working on, and PowerPoint tends to be rich with a lot of graphics. But the changes that I made were relatively small. And lo and behold, let's take a look here. 28 megabytes of data, that's the red line. That's how much data I had to send in order to do that. And we implemented this in our synchronization protocol without any knowledge of the fact that it was PowerPoint. We didn't have to, do anything specific to the file type. We were able to do this without having both versions of the file on either side, but strictly by doing a differential transfer and computing this diff over the wire. So let me tell you a little bit about how this algorithm works, and then how you could implement it in your own application.